welcome back to Movie Review Mom. Thanks for subscribing. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And while you're down there, click on that little bell and it will notify you every time I upload a new movie review. Today, the movie I'm reviewing is Onward. This movie is rated PG. It's an hour and 42 minutes, and the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is a B. And I'll explain. I'll give you a quick overview in a nutshell. I'll point out some tips for parents, and then I'll talk about some themes that are worth talking about and point out things I liked and didn't like. Okay, so in a quick nutshell, within the very first few minutes of the movie, you see all kinds of magical creatures, and you're introduced to a new fun world with a quest that inspires. The movie has plenty of action, humor, and emotion for all ages of viewers who are ready for a fun adventure. Now, it's not Pixar's best animated movie. However, it has heart and a message that I think will give courage to kids who are right on the edge of adulthood. And that's kind of the setting of the movie. Now, director Dan Scanlon actually lost his own father when he was very young. And so the story takes on a very personal level that is heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. Okay, so now some quick tips for parents. There is talk of the death of a parent and when that person was sick in the hospital and dying. And along with that discussion is a really good look at father-son relationships, sibling relationships, mother-son relationships. So I really like the whole family element and how it explores those different types of relationships. There is some bullying by pixie dusters. It's pretty hilarious. One of the female cops, voiced by comedian Ali Wong, is a lesbian and makes mention of her girlfriend and a little bit of name calling. That's pretty much it. It's a pretty family-friendly, safe movie. Now, some interesting themes worth talking about with your kids after you watch this movie together are first that we often take for granted the amazing things all around us. The beginning of the movie shows this fantastical land and then talks about how people kind of got used to it and dismissed it as being magical. And I think we're sometimes like that, especially when it comes to technology or even the opposite extreme nature. And we forget to stop and really wonder at the magic before us of all of those things in our lives. Another very sweet theme is that there is magic in you. Ian Lightfoot, who's voiced by Tom Holland, says, with a little bit of magic in your life, you can do almost anything. And in fact, one of the messages is that you can only work the magic if you have self-confidence and you believe in it. Another theme is to be bold, and that addresses courage versus fear and how fear often stops us from becoming our best self. Another theme is sacrifice for others. Of course, adventure and being brave and going out there and doing things that are different and scary and challenging yourself. And then another interesting lesson in the movie is to use what you have. A lot of times we feel like, oh, if I only had this resource or access to this thing or this person, then I could accomplish all these great things. And so the movie shows several times, use what you have and go for it. And I really liked that lesson. Some other things that I really liked are the feels. It's got the feels. And some people criticize Pixar for just sacrificing story for getting you to cry. And I don't think that that's true. I don't think it's ever been true. I think just Pixar is great at mastering both at the same time. All of Pixar movies have great characters, and in this movie, the ages of the people are a little bit older. Oftentimes we see Pixar movies of younger kids, right? And these are teenagers on the verge of adulthood. And so I kind of liked that different type of demographic to teach some lessons to younger children, of course, but also to remind us of lessons as adults. So I laughed at the mom because she reminded me of myself in a lot of ways. And it was cute to see her team up with the Manticore as they had their own adventure. And I was really glad that the women in the story were not sidelined. They are voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Octavia Spencer. Now, Julia Louis-Dreyfus has not been in an animated film by Pixar since she did A Bug's Life 22 years ago. Can you believe it's been that long? And then the Manticore character, voiced by Octavia Spencer, was just a really fun character that teaches us to reignite the fire within us. I really liked that little element, and moms and adults in general will really appreciate that. Now, Tom Holland and Chris Pratt are always crowd pleasers. I've liked them since the very first time I saw them show up in any movie. And so it's always fun to see them, but it's also really fun just to hear their voices. And one thing I thought was interesting about Chris Pratt is he has a very recognizable voice, but I didn't recognize it at first, which I actually appreciated because sometimes actors just sound the same no matter what movie they're in. So it seemed like he was trying to change it up just a little bit. There are lots of entertaining gags and visual humors that will keep you laughing. Now, not all of the humor lands, but there's plenty of it to choose from. The animation is just amazing, as expected by the reliably awesome Pixar. Now, some people say that the photorealism is jarring against the animation, and there are a few moments where that's true. However, it's pretty good in this movie. That was one of my biggest gripes in the movie The Good Dinosaur, was that you had these gorgeous photorealistic landscapes with these little animated dinosaurs, and that seemed very jarring. But in this movie, it's okay. It'd be great if it matched a little better, but it was okay. I really appreciate, first of all, the fact that this is a fresh story. Yay, fresh, no sequels. It's been a while since Pixar threw out an original story. So I hope that they're going to continue this positive trend. And hooray for John Ratzenberger. I love that he's included in so many Pixar movies. This is actually the third time that he voices a construction worker in an animation. He's just got such a fun voice, perfect for animation. I also really like the little checklist and was touched by Ian Lightfoot's list. And I encourage you and your kids to keep a little list like that, to have bucket lists and goals and things to look forward to. I always say in traveling, I love to travel, that the anticipation is half the fun. So talk to your kids about creating a list like that and start checking them off your list. Now, Ian Lightfoot's character was actually based on Alfredo Linguini from the adorable movie Ratatouille. Such a cute movie. If you haven't seen that, run out and go see that. So cute. And fans of all Pixar movies will appreciate a few little Easter eggs in this movie, like their classic Pizza Planet truck that shows up in every Pixar movie. I love that, and I'm such a fan of Pixar. I always love the little nuggets that are intended for true fans to appreciate. The big reveal ending just brought me to tears. It was so touching. I love that. Pixar does it so well. And by the way, the animated short that plays in theaters right now is actually about The Simpsons. And I was a little bit disappointed because I always hope for some original content, but I think it's understandable since Disney is now buying the Simpsons franchise and maybe exposing that franchise to all of the Pixar fans. I don't know. Still, the Simpsons are hilarious, so it was okay. Act 3 really saves the movie and pulls it all together. And we're seeing more and more animated movies that explore sadness, fear, and even dark subjects that will hopefully help kids to prepare for life's inevitable ups and downs. I thought it was really fun that Barley Lightfoot was an expert on Dungeons and Dragons, making him really the perfect guide to go on this little magical adventure. Being a nerd has never been so celebrated before. For example, when I was growing up, anybody that played D&D was kind of a nerd, and now they're cool and fun and looked upon as experts at this unique game world. And I think that's awesome. And finally, I appreciate the portrayal of a step parent and that often very tricky relationship with kids. Okay, and so now a few things that I didn't like. This one's just really silly, but it's never exactly explained how a father who doesn't possess the top half of his body can actually walk around. I mean, he could walk. And in the beginning, he kind of bumps into things, and you're like, well, yeah, because he doesn't have eyes and a head. But later in the second half of the movie, he's, like walking around. Magic, I guess. It's super hard to feel connected to him when, he doesn't have a full body and personality. On the other hand, it is impressive how expressive pant legs and shoes can be. So I thought that they actually did a pretty good job with that. When I first saw the trailer, I thought, oh, that looks kind of creepy. How is that going to be a charming Pixar movie? But I really liked how the pants and their movement looked like they belonged to a dad rather than to a boy. They actually looked older, and I thought that was super impressive. There's actually a pending lawsuit involving a tattoo artist who claims that Pixar stole her unicorn design on her van that they drive around in during most of the movie, the Vanicorn. And then finally, the very first few minutes of the movie show you this wondrous fantasy land with all of these really cool creatures. And then we don't really see many of them ever again. And I would have liked to have seen them maybe appear at the end or something, or maybe that's what the sequel will be all about. We'll see. Okay, and if you enjoy this movie, then I think that you'll also enjoy another movie by Dan Scanlon called Monsters University. It wasn't the strongest film in the Monsters Inc. franchise, but it was still entertaining, and this one is as well. So thanks again for spending a few minutes with me. Be sure and subscribe. Also, visit my website, moviereviewmom.com, and you'll get to read more of my movie review of this film as well as others and see contests and other stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this movie. Have a great time at the theater. Bye for now.